1. I had been working at a retail booth for less than a month when I broke up with the guy I was seeing at the time. I moved out of his place and in with a friend of mine. A couple of months went by and my supervisor suggested to my manager that we hire one of her friends who we will call Henry. My manager was at first skeptical, but he was a bit of a pushover, so my supervisor got her way. He was only going to be part-time and I was pretty much full-time since it was nearing the end of November, which meant seasonal hours. When he first arrived, he was pretty quiet and didn't really say much, so my co-workers and I treated him with open arms, encouraging him, joking around with him, etc. Eventually he started to get more comfortable, and that is when things started getting weird. It started out with a few odd sexual comments towards me, here and there, which I dismissed as it wasn't over-the-top creepy at the time. I was a female working in a mall. I have heard way worse than what he was saying. Plus, I was casually seeing someone at the time, and Henry knew it. Eventually, my friend's roommate, the landlord's daughter, wanted to move back into the room I was renting, and since things had become rocky with my friend, I decided to concede and just move out. This was the first time Henry offered to have me move in since his roommate, April, wanted to move out since she was working pretty far away. I agreed as the price was right, and my only other option was to move in with my 92-year-old grandpa and my aunt. However, he ended up getting sick, and I didn't hear from him in time, so I decided to just move in with my grandpa and aunt. This lasted until around a month, when I started to realize I couldn't live with my aunt, as she had her problems she needed to work on, and so did I. Henry again offered to have me move in, and I agreed. So I moved in shortly afterwards. It was a pretty decent place and right near a bus stop. Perfect. This is where I was so wrong. Within a week of moving in, I realized I had made a huge mistake. Henry would stay up until the wee hours of the morning listening to and singing The Weekend over and over again at top volume. I asked him to turn it down as I had just picked up a full-time job and was still working at the retail booth. This was a point of contention for the two of us the entire month I stayed there. On top of which he drank heavily and got pretty aggressive when he did so. The first time I saw him drunk, it wasn't so bad, minus him saying that he wanted to sleep with me. I struck that down as I was not attracted to him at all, and he knew I was seeing someone at the time. The first instance of aggression was when he brought a girlfriend over. I could hear the two of them talking about how she wanted to move in and needed me to move out. Henry was talking about how much he hated me and wanted to beat me up. It was pretty scary. I tried to go to bed, but to no avail, as there wasn't a lock on my door. The second was with his cousin. His cousin was the worst for bringing out his anger. I had my friend Mike over, who is married, to hang out and watch movies. We were watching movies in my room when Henry started to lose it, yelling at me to give him the keys to the apartment, banging on my door, cursing me out from the other side, etc. I told him that I needed the keys and he should have his set if he wanted them. That was not okay by Henry. He decided to kick in my door with my friend Mike there, then storm out and go drink some more with his cousin. As if it weren't scary enough, I started to receive a series of texts from him. Henry: "Fuck you, Atomic Babam. You're acting like a fucking Jezebel, and you're gonna get yours." Me: "What is wrong with you?" Henry: "You're what's wrong with me. All I want is my keys, and it's too much to ask, 'cause you was some guy." He's talking about my married friend Mike. "Well, I got news for you. You keep this shit up, and you'll find out what I am." Me: "You have your keys that you never asked for until tonight. You and I talked on the phone less than 12 hours ago. If you needed them then, you could have requested them. I do not know why you're acting like this. Is this why April left?" Henry: "No, it's fine. I'm sorry. Sorry about the noise and everything. I'll talk to you tomorrow when you're free, hopefully." Me: "No, Henry, I am scared of you right now." Henry: "Be scared then. I apologized and said not to worry. I'm not going to hurt you or anything, but you get under my skin over the stupidest things." Don't worry. I called the cops on him after this. Unfortunately, there was not much they could do, except document his behavior in case something like this ever happened again. I am sure they were used to being called to this building, as it wasn't exactly the best place in town to live. After this, he decided to put a lock on his door to keep me out. Why? I am not sure. His behavior continued from there. Every conversation we have, I made sure to take a screenshot. I made sure to tell my parents and everyone I knew that if anything happened to me, it was likely Henry. His girlfriend and him continued to talk about kicking me out without letting me know, throwing my stuff outside and leaving me homeless. He continued to drink and send threatening messages. He locked my friend out on the balcony while he went for a smoke, then threatened him. My friend managed to get back in and just told him how uncool it was that he did that. He continued to play his music insanely loud. Eventually, it came to a head when I woke up with bedbugs crawling on me. I was mortified. I had asked him and April if there was anything wrong with the apartment, including bedbugs, and they both denied it. I stopped sleeping after 2 weeks of living there. I would try to spend the night at other people's houses just to get some sleep. Eventually, I broke down on the phone to my mom, who quickly got in contact with my other aunt. My parents live about an hour from the city I live in now. Within a week, I was moved out. I left my mattress and a lot of my belongings because, well, bedbugs. I didn't want to take them with me. I moved out of the apartment while Henry and his cousin were sleeping off a hangover from drinking the night before. I left no note, no indication that I was moving, and I kept my rent for the month that I lived there. April tried contacting me about the month I lived there, and asked for the money, but I blocked her as well as Henry. About 2 months ago, I was on Facebook and came across a photo of Henry that my cousin had posted. I was not aware that the two of them were friends. The caption basically read that he had passed away. I am not sure from what, but I can assume it had something to do with his excessive drinking, coupled with the fact that he suffered from seizures. As sad as it is that he passed away so young, I can at least be sure that we will not meet again. 2. I'm really shaken up by what I'm about to speak of, as I've literally just found out the full truth to this story. So bear with me. This took place yesterday on 24th February at around 3:55 p.m. for reference. Anyway, on with it. Yesterday I, male 17, had set off walking to pick my little brother, 11, up from his primary school. And it was pretty much the same mundane mile-long walk I do every weekday to pick him up. I made it to around the halfway point when I saw 2 young adults across the road from me, perhaps 10 meters further along than I was, who were taking a photo of a woman who was walking in their direction. I had my earphones in with Nirvana blasting my eardrums, so I couldn't hear what they were yelling excitedly about, so I walked on. When the woman had become parallel with me from the other side of the road, her head snapped to the right. I was on the left-hand side of the road, and she was on the opposite, like something from The Exorcist, and stared right at me. She then stumbled her way across the road, completely ignoring a car which nearly ran her over, causing it to brake sharply. She walked like somebody who had been taking drugs for a long period, or somebody who was extremely drunk. She then reached me. I was stood still, terrified, and then stood less than a foot from my face, as if personal space is an alien concept to her. She had the mannerisms of a lunatic, unpredictably thrashing her hands by her side, and her eyes were wild like somebody consumed by anger. Her hair was slightly past her shoulder blades, a greasy, faded brown color, which was matted but slightly curled. She also wore an olive-grey bomber jacket, which had not been washed in weeks by the look of it. This will all become relevant when you read on. She angrily mumbled to me in gibberish, swaying on the spot, slightly advancing towards my face with hers. At this point she was probably 20 centimeters from my face, and her eyes were wide, staring at me as she mumbled. I quickly made a break for it and sidestepped her, and jogged away from her probably for 100 meters. When I looked back, she had vanished. so I carried on to collect my brother, really creeped out by her. I'd also like to mention that this was a straight road with no side streets for hundreds of meters, so unless she had superhuman speed, she could not possibly have walked down them. I wasn't too surprised that this had happened, as I live in a part of South Yorkshire which is infamous for its drug users, and I was walking through a rough and dodgy neighborhood as it was. You know, the types with trainers dangling from the phone lines above the road. I collect my little brother as usual, and we had to walk back the way I came, straight past the spot where I encountered her. I told him to be on high alert just in case she returned with her threatening behavior and had a knife or something, and gave him instructions on how he was to run away if I told him to, and find the next shop along, as the staff have known us for years, and to stay there until I came for him. Anyway, we reached the shops near my house, and I see a police car and an ambulance approaching it. So I joked to my brother that it was the woman who I had encountered 15 minutes earlier. We reached the part of the footpath that the police car was parked next to, and who was being arrested and led into a police car. You guessed it, the woman who had approached me. There were local shop owners stood in a group near the car, talking amongst each other, looking shaken. But I assumed they were just being nosy as usual. I'd forgotten all about this until now. About 20 minutes ago, I was eating with my family in our living room, where my younger sister, 14, innocently mentioned to my mum that there had been a post she had seen on Snapchat, which was probably posted at 4:15 p.m. yesterday, about somebody in our local area who was dangerous and should not be approached. Normally, I just ignore this as my sister is a typical 14-year-old girl who believes anything her friends say. But what she said afterwards made my heart stop, and I was almost sick in my mouth. My sister was at a friend's sleepover yesterday and didn't see me again until today, so I hadn't mentioned this to her. She told us how a woman in the local area had been arrested for vandalizing property in the area, robbing homes and mugging people on the street. She'd also been into the local shops, threatening the staff and acting like a lunatic, shouting things at them. My sister then gave a description of what she looked like, and that's when I was nearly sick in my mouth. She had the exact same description as the woman I had met earlier. She then showed me a photo of the woman, and, you guessed it again, it was her. You know what makes this even creepier? Those guys I mentioned earlier who I saw taking the photo were taking this photo that had been circulating on social media, and I was just out of shot in it. Those shopkeepers I saw stood outside were those who had been threatened by her and who called the police. It turns out that this woman had escaped from a psychiatric ward and had been terrorizing the neighborhood and should not be approached under any circumstance, as she's unpredictable and dangerous. Though luckily, she's arrested, I believe. I suppose it simply goes to show how lucky some people can be to not be attacked in these circumstances. So crazy escaped criminal from the psychiatric ward? Let's not meet. 3. So I work at a 24-hour contact center on the shift team. Most of the call center works 9 to 5 hours. But there is a small team of us here for the after hours. The nature of the call center is that people call in for interpreters, and we set up the conference. At night, most of the calls we get are from emergency services, but it could really be about anything. We never know what's waiting on the other line, and us shifties have to deal with a lot of strange stuff. But nothing has made my skin crawl more than this one caller that started calling about a month ago. We get the occasional prank call, or even a lewd caller, so I can't really pin down the exact time this guy started calling. About a month ago, I got a call that went like this, and I kind of suspect it might have been him, but I'm not 100% sure. So, let's just say, if it wasn't, I don't really want to meet this person either. Me. Welcome to Babel Freezer Translations, this is Bell, how can I help? Silence. Me. Hello? Is anyone on this line? Silence. Me. Hello? What language? Man. Poo-poo! Me, thinking I hadn't heard correctly. Sorry, was that Pashto? Man.
No.
Me. Where is the language from? Man.
Spain.
Me. No, I'm pretty sure they speak Spanish in Spain. Man.
I'm gonna put my dick between your tits and come in your face.
He breathed heavily down the phone. Me, shocked and laughing, hangs up the phone. And that was that. The first of its kind that have haunted our shift team for the last month. Another girl on the team hung up a call quite panicked about 2 weeks ago. I heard a lot of the call just on her end, but she was calmly explaining the way our service worked to someone. Just saying that we accept calls from non-English speakers as well as agencies, and we can put the callers through to a lot of companies as long as they accept our calls and our clients. And then she just stopped talking and said, "Guys, this guy just got really crazy on the phone. I'm really shaken up." She didn't want to repeat what he had said, but after I told her about my call with the last dude, she said it was pretty similar to that. The next one I wasn't there for, so I don't have the best details of exactly what was said or anything, but I was given a rundown of a girl I work with, so I'll try my best to explain this one because this is where it starts getting really freaky. So this girl in my team stayed back to hang out with the relieving shift. We were on the evening shift and they were on the graveyard. She said at around 3 a.m. this guy started calling and asking for Vietnamese. They would get the interpreter and then a woman would come on the line speaking Spanish. So they would disconnect the call with him. He kept calling, so they started to ignore his request for an interpreter. Then things started getting strange. He started saying some rude stuff. And then they would hear the keys of his phone being pressed. Now, I had brought this up with our team leader, and she told us to trace his calls if we could. Yes, we have call trace, which is pretty cool, but side note. So they kept him on the line and started to trace the calls. But then they realized he was transferring the call or conferencing in another call or something. The phone started ringing like the sound when you call out to someone, and then someone answered on the other line. "Hello, 911, what's your emergency?" The really strange thing about this is that we are not in the USA, not even close to the USA. It's kind of hard to make conference calls if you don't know how. It's also kind of hard to find an international number for 911. Normally, if you dial 911, it redirects you to the country you are in's emergency services. So we have no idea how he was doing it. But the guy was kind of putting on a voice, so it's hard to tell if he is American. Although a detail that happens later makes me think he is American, he never stayed on the line to finish the call trace. So girls at work ended up saying sorry and explaining the situation to the 911 operator. They were as freaked out about it as we were. But the conference didn't collapse. If the caller who made the conference hangs up, then the conference would collapse. So this guy just stayed on the line listening to these people from 2 different countries try and work out why they were speaking to each other. Other calls that night I've been told about was one where they heard a bomb countdown timer. They weren't sure if it was live or if it was a recording, but it sounded like 10 seconds until detonation, and then started counting down. It never finished the countdown. The call just cut out before. He also called a police station in America and conferenced us into them, and then just hung on the line not saying anything. But I'm not sure on the details of that one, so I'll just leave it. A few days later, we started our night shift rotation. What I'm about to explain only happened 2 nights ago, so it's still pretty fresh in my brain. At about 4 a.m., the girl I work with, pretty calmly I might add, yells out, "Oh, it's this dickhead again," and then puts the phone on speaker so we can all hear it. What I heard on the other line made my eyes water and my skin crawl. In the most horrible voice, deep and rusty, almost like a whisper coming out of the speaker, was this horrible voice mixed with horrible words.
"I'm going to kill you."
Everyone froze. This was pretty creepy even for us. Then immediately he transferred to another line. This time he didn't stay quiet. An American man answered the phone, and let me just throw in there that he had a really awesome manner and accent. Their conversation went like this. Man. Hello? Creep.
Hi, I'm just calling in relation to an Xbox you put up on Craigslist.
Man. Oh yeah, it comes with 2 controllers and some games. They had a conversation about the Xbox for a few minutes until... Creep.
I'm going to stick my dick up your ass.
Man. Excuse me? What did you just say? Creep.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get my dick and rub it all over your face. Do you like that?
Man. Oh dear Lord, why you say that? That's nasty. Oh no, child. And then the call cut out. I was next in line for a call, so my colleague warned me. And as soon as the last word left her lips, my phone rang. Me. Babble Freezer Interpreters, how can I help? I didn't want to use my name. Creep.
Oh, hey, what's your name? I want you to help with something. What's your name?
Me. My name is Mel. I use that because it's close to my own name, I guess, and people always mistake it that way on the phone. Creep.
Can you fuck me, please? Come here and fuck me. Fuck you, I'm gonna kill you.
At this point, I put it on speaker. I was supposed to mute it, but I'm not sure if I did because I was trying to figure out how to trace the call. And said, "How do you trace?" And then he hung up. And that's the most recent thing he's done. If he calls again, I'll make a video or something because I want to show you guys his voice. It's so creepy. But also, I left out which country I'm from because I'm not really supposed to put stuff online about where I work. They are pretty strict about it, and I've heard of people being fired. So I left out all details of the company name and country I'm from. Although it's probably easy to work out. It's currently 2:14 a.m. Any minute now he could call again, and my heart jumps every time the phone rings. Edit. Some details I forgot. So the girl that came to the phone who was speaking in Spanish was probably just him doing a voice. Some people have said it sometimes sounds like he puts his voice through a computer or something, or he is doing voice characters. And my teammate just told me that the voice of the girl was way freakier than his voice. She couldn't really explain why and just kept saying it sounds like he put his voice through a computer, but not as well. So I don't really know about this. Also, I said that I thought he was American for a reason that came up later, but it's now 6:16 a.m. and I've been up all night on shift, so I don't really remember what that was. I can't think of any reason I was sure he was American. I mean, he called with an accent from my home country before, so... But then again, if he's doing voices, then I think he's probably capable of doing an accent. But I guess all the calls to America places make me think he's probably in America. And when he was talking to the Xbox guy, he had an American accent. And the girl I work with has clarified a detail I got a little wrong. It doesn't actually ring when he conferences the calls together. It's just all of a sudden someone is on the line with you, which makes me think he's also on a computer and he's conferencing the calls that way. Either way, I have literally no idea why someone would target us for this, particularly if they are in America. Like, we aren't a hugely populated country, and pretty much everyone I talk to about my job has never heard of our service. So why us? It makes me worry he has some ties to us. Or else it could be motivated by a dislike of people who don't speak English. Mostly, I just think he's bored and wanking or something. Update. I spoke to my manager at work about it, and she is going to write a process to do if the guy calls again. It's been 4 or 5 days since his last call, which is still the one at the end of this post. But she told me that she will let us know how to trace properly, and for us to forward her the times he calls. Then we will tell the police. Thanks everyone for their advice. The response to this has been way bigger than I expected. So thanks everyone. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 269. Thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Okay, I think it's about time I did another Q&A. Just like the last ones, I'm not going to rush it, but if you have any questions you'd like me to answer or attempt to answer, then just drop them in the comment section below or send them to me on Twitter. I'll do a screen cap and pop them up on screen as I'm answering the questions as per usual. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. Dinner time, I think. So until next time, thank you very much for listening and take very good care of yourselves.